So if you look out over the water, there's the yellow building over there on the right, and just south of that is a several-acre site that we'll be building our new headquarters at. It'll be 1,040 feet tall. It'll be one of the greatest office buildings built in the world. There will be law firms, private equity, Citadel.
So it's not just your companies?
Not just us.
Wall Street South?
Wall Street South.
Florida is a state perhaps best known for pleasure. A place where spring breakers and seniors go to soak up the sun and work on their golf swing. But in the past few years, a new species has been migrating south. From 2020 to 2023, over 50 investment firms moved their headquarters from New York City to what some people are calling
Wall Street South.
Wall Street South.
Wall Street South.
Blackstone, Starwood, Carl Icahn.
Names like BlackRock and Goldman Sachs.
Ken Griffin is moving both Citadel and Citadel Securities to Miami.
Miami, I think, represents the future of America.
But why is this happening in Florida? And does it mean the days of New York's financial dominance are over?
Hi, ladies. How are you today?
Good, very good. We're a little rowdy over here.
You have a drink? Of course, you get a little loud. It's nice.
This is Harry.
Okay.
And this is Harry's. Also, this is Harry's, or rather Harry's 1.0, a Wall Street institution where traders famously congregated during the heyday of New York's financial district.
You've been here 22 years now?
I'm here 22 years.
So what do you think's going to happen in the market now?
Me, I'm always optimistic.
In 2023, Harry's Bar and Restaurant opened a new location in West Palm Beach, serving the same fish, martinis, and steak to a surprisingly familiar clientele. Is this Wall Street South?
Yes, it's gonna be great.
But there's no New York Stock Exchange. There's a smaller office for Goldman
You
Sachs.
do not need the exchange anymore. When my business was big, they had 7,000 people. Now they have about 200.
A lot more computers.
But computers, they don't come to the restaurant.
In the early days, business was conducted face-to-face, handwritten on slips of paper and shouted across trading floors. By the early 2000s, most trades were fully electronic. The stock exchange became less central, and new players began to form outside of the old-school Wall Street giants. In recent years, firms managing an estimated $1 trillion moved out of New York, as business that could have only been done on Wall Street years ago can now be done from Texas or Amsterdam or at the Four Seasons in Palm Beach, where Citadel Securities built a pop-up trading floor during COVID. You brought so many people down here so quickly. How did that work?
So if you research respiratory viruses, in general, they spread less in high humidity, high UV radiation environments. Take out a map of the United States, you're coming to Florida. And we rented the Four Seasons in Palm Beach to bring as many people as we could here for an unknown duration, and created perhaps the first bubble in America. So the people that came to the Four Seasons in Palm Beach, they checked in and they literally could not leave the property for months.
The hotel is probably not made to be a trading floor. How did you change it to serve that function?
So the area we used was pretty much made to host weddings. And it was an interesting moment because we had to marry a technological footprint with the ballroom space. And that involved, for example, deploying thousands of servers. And you can imagine the power demand that went with thousands of servers. And how do you solve that problem? What's interesting is the state of Florida, because it has hurricanes, has portable generation. And we were able to bring in a portable generator to solve our power needs, for example. But that can-do attitude of helping to make things happen, that was something special that I think all of us underestimated when we came here to embark on this project. I mean, we worked literally 24 hours a day, several hundred people for 5 days in a row, and built what would usually have taken 1 or 2 years to accomplish. It was really quite a feat.
Ken Griffin is the founder and CEO of Citadel, the most profitable hedge fund in the world. with more than $65 billion in assets as of the middle of 2025. He also founded Citadel Securities, a massive trading firm that connects buyers and sellers. Griffin has become one of Florida's most influential residents, moving his firm's headquarters from Chicago to Miami in 2022. He's donated tens of millions to local museums and universities, spent hundreds of millions on Florida real estate, and is a well-known political donor both nationally and within the state.
This is supposed to be one of the next great hubs for Citadel and Citadel Securities. Why?
Tense is wrong. This is one of the great hubs for Citadel and Citadel Securities. We have several hundred people here in Miami. The leadership of Citadel Securities is between Miami, New York, and London principally. This is a really important part of their business. And then for the hedge fund, a number of my most senior professionals are here in Miami with me. This is a very important part of our global footprint. Miami is unequivocally one of the great up-and-coming cities, not just in Florida, not just in America, but in the world.
It doesn't come without its challenges, right? I mean, when we talk to a lot of people who are considering moving to Miami, they do talk a lot about the cost of living, the skyrocketing rent, the lack of access to schools, or the fact that there may not be enough of them for how many people are moving down here.
You're talking about New York City, or you're talking about Miami?
I'm talking about Miami.
I just want to make sure, because it's the same list of problems, isn't it? And these are the problems of prosperity. These are the problems that you have in cities that are growing, that are booming. These are problems that, frankly, you much prefer over the alternative, right? The counterfactual, you're shrinking, you're dying cities. And we have found that of the people we've brought here, no one's asked to go back anywhere else.
Do you think that there's a time where your presence in Miami for Citadel and even Citadel Securities is going to be bigger than in New York?
I mean, over the next few years, no. Over 20 or 30 years, we'll see what unfolds. I don't view this as a competition between Miami and New York. I view this as an American, I want to see both of these cities really be great places and financial centers for the United States, for North America, and for the world. This is one of the most fun places you could possibly imagine living in. You know what's wonderful about being in Miami? You go to dinner and you talk with your friends about the future. And the optimism here is infectious. Is the American dream still alive? It's alive and kicking here in Miami because people here in Miami believe that tomorrow will be a better day. So it's really great to be here in a city that just exudes the belief that in America, anything can happen. And Americans who believe that make things happen.
Ken Griffin isn't the only one betting on Florida. There's also a younger cohort setting up shop.
The company that we're visiting, Diameter, they're one of the hedge funds that I hear about a lot.
What's the advice to anybody who wants to start a hedge fund?
Never cross trade. Don't be attached to any position too much.
They're new generation, so it's really interesting to see them build a second office in West Palm. One founder's here, one is in New York, and so they see this as the future.
Hedge funds are secretive firms that have a wide range of investing styles, and they're a key part of the Wall Street South ecosystem. But they've historically only been open to institutional investors or very wealthy individuals, and they usually charge high fees. While mutual funds, exchange-traded funds, and banks are heavily regulated, hedge funds face fewer rules, giving them the freedom to take bigger risks, leading to spectacular gains and sometimes spectacular implosions. The term hedge fund originally came from the idea of hedging your bets, making one bet, and then making another to protect yourself if things go the other way. Think of a street vendor selling sunglasses. They're betting on sunny weather. But a smart vendor also invests a little in umbrellas too, just in case it rains. A hedge fund is a bit like that, ready to make money in any weather. But today, the term hedge fund has evolved dramatically. Now, hedge funds use a variety of strategies and bet on everything from currencies to election outcomes. And as of the end of 2024, the industry was managing more than $4.5 trillion in assets.
Hi. I was just say the whole office smells like candles. It's so nice to meet you. Thank you for having me. You moved here right around COVID.
The beginning of COVID.
Whose idea was it?
It was my idea. I said, we can't be in New York. It's gonna get real bad. We need to get out of New York. I'm asthmatic, so I was at risk for COVID. So we rented a house in a place that's about 10 miles north of here and hunkered down there, and I just worked. We sit in a Zoom with all of our trading people, all the traders, all the risk people, and the research people come in and out, pitch us on ideas. That way, they can be changing the model live on the screen. We can be iterating live. And that's pretty unique versus how if I think back to how he did this, 10 years ago, I'd call the London guy when I got up in the morning, and then maybe I'd talk to him at the investment committee at the end of the day. Now the London people are in the same Zoom as us all day. It's not like we're in New York, Palm Beach, and London. It's like we're in one entity. So they can see me, I can see them. Tell Rob to wave to her.
Diameter invests not in stocks, but in debt. It's a fund that is relatively new in the world of Wall Street, but growing fast. They've done some far-out things, like buying up debt tied to X, Elon Musk's social media company, and purchasing bankruptcy claims after the collapse of FTX. They made a killing.
So I grew up in Connecticut. I actually got into finance because I was doing fantasy baseball when I was 10 or 11. I'm a sports nut growing up, statistics nut. I got put in a league with random people, and I won a couple times in a row. 3 of these guys were from Boston and worked together. They worked at actually a fixed income investing firm. They would invite me and they say, will you come up to Boston? And they said, well, can I bring my dad? And they said, why? I said, well, I'm 12. These guys thought I was 20 or 25. So I go up there and they say to my dad, your son's really good at the data. He's beating us every year. So on the train back, I say to my dad, do you have any friends that do this? Well, luckily, he was riding the train to New York with Tony James, Richard Chilton, and John McFarlane. I worked for him at Tudor with Paul during college.
So you work for Paul Tudor Jones, one of the greatest hedge fund managers of all time in college.
Yes.
How many people really get that experience?
Not many.
So what's true Wall Street South? Is it Miami or West Palm Beach or the mix of the
South Florida. Everything in South Florida from Coral Gables to Jupiter is booming. And there's finance all along the way.
The Miami metro area shrank immediately after COVID hit, but the population has been growing since. And with Donald Trump back as president, power players including Elon Musk, Masayoshi Son, and many others have visited Mar-a-Lago, which is just 15 minutes from Diameter's office, depending on traffic, of course.
People have said that it's transient, that just because President Trump is down here, it doesn't mean that more people are moving per se.
He wasn't president and they were moving for the last 4 years.
For him?
No. We're not here because of politics. We're here because it's a good place to raise our family and do business. It's 75 and sunny and no taxes.
This is like New York level traffic. Last week of January, every year, all the big hedge funds, they're big investors, a lot of the big private equity firms, they always head down to Miami and West Palm, and it's kind of a central meeting point. It's unofficially called Hedge Fund Week. No one actually named it that, but that's what everyone calls it.
I usually kick off Hedge Fund Week with a party hosted by Universa, which was one of the first hedge funds known to move down here. And the party happens to be on a mega yacht. Universa is closely associated with its top scientific advisor, Nassim Taleb, a former options trader who predicted the 2008 financial crisis and is known for his book, The Black Swan. Did they make you yet?
Yeah, they mic me. It's very perfectionist. Okay, I do a podcast. I do it in 4 minutes on my laptop. I don't need no team, nothing, no lighting. I just do it on my laptop. Nobody knows this.
Something I've been thinking about is the banks are not really here. There's Goldman has a presence.
Nobody cares about banks except bankers. Because bankers used to lend, used to take deposits. Now people manage their own deposits with 0 interest rates. And so the market got a little smarter by moving deposits away from bankers, and loans, were securitized. So hedge funds have much more variety. And this can explain the presence in Miami of hedge funds, because they came down for the taxes. Some came down for the weather. Some came down because of the midlife crisis.
Banks were once the core of the financial ecosystem, but their dominance has faded as non-bank financial institutions take over trillions in assets. Because these firms can move a lot faster than banks, it's gotten easier for cities without a long tradition of banking to rise as finance hubs.
Miami is very good for business.
Do you think it'll be bigger than New York as a financial center?
I don't know. But anybody in finance who can move out of New York should, because the tax rate is prohibitively high and the regulation is monstrous. You know, to be honest, this is better life. I mean, look. Let me tell you one thing about Miami, all right? I'm going to be harsh. It's probably one of the very few places I've been that has no pretense of intellectualism. None. They have Gucci shoes, all right? They have a Ferrari, whatever it is, and they're happy with it. And I tell you, I find that refreshing.
Universa's Yacht Party is a cross-section of Miami finance. Wealth managers, investors, fund managers, and reporters.
You recruited a lot of companies to move down to Miami or at least have a presence here.
That's right, exactly.
How many did you convince?
Oh my God, it was over 100 companies that we brought down here. And after Dodd-Frank, post-financial crisis, these smaller hedge funds and financial service companies were forming.
Does it say something about the future of finance? That all of these hedge funds are kind of looking to build? Are the banks kind of so yesterday?
Well, I think we love the banks as well. But I think sometimes these banks, it's a little harder for them to move or make those types of bold decisions so quickly.
Like, if there's one thing you don't like, what is it?
Wow, I say people drive like crazy here.
I think people are also known to sometimes look out for themselves. That's why it has this Miami reputation.
Interesting.
So there is a little
really?
bit of
I never
that.
heard of that one.
Miami. So there is a little bit of that dynamic where a lot of people come here to show their wealth. If you find your community in Miami, it really is wonderful.
What do prices look like?
Where we are, Gables, Grove, like 1,000 per square foot, 1,500 per foot on the water, some 2,500 per square foot, the beach, Miami Beach, 3,000, 4,000 per square foot. So you're talking about like New York prices right there.
So Miami is kind of like Beverly Hills.
Miami is definitely catching up, 100%, if not more in some areas. Is it necessary, by the way? We get it, we get it. We're taking off, we're taking off.
Yeah, I just feel like New York seems a little bit more conducive to how fast-paced finance is. Coffee shops here don't open until like 7 or 8. In New York, I feel like they're open since like the crack of dawn.
Right, I'm trying to find one as early as like 5, 6 a.m.
Yes, I tried at 6:30, everything was shut. And even places that say they're open at 7, they were closed. And I was like, oh, I need to send them out.
Yeah. Someone who's used to always being on edge and in a very cutthroat environment, I guess, is not getting the same kind of adrenaline rush here.
But if you really want to know what's happening in South Florida, you have to talk to the developers.
So nice to meet you, and what a beautiful view.
Just made for you guys here, with my bathers.
George Perez was born in Argentina to Cuban parents, but moved to Miami in 1968. He worked for the city as an urban planner, focusing on improving low-income communities, and later opened the Related Group with then-partner Steve Ross, where he initially focused on affordable housing before venturing into luxury condos, earning him the nickname the Condo King.
It sounds like there's a lot of construction going on. Is that you?
Unfortunately not. I lost that one. That's from a competitor of ours. We are in the best neighborhood of Miami. And the reason for that is this was the hippie neighborhood of Miami. And because of the hippie neighborhood of Miami, everything here is trees. And we're only 15 minutes from downtown.
Are you a hippie underneath it all?
I was, I was in 1960, hair to my waist. Yeah. I was very liberal. And, I think it was Bertrand Russell or Bernard Shaw, one of those English guys, that said, show me a young man that is not a liberal, and I'll show you a man without a soul, and show me an older man that is still a liberal, and I'll show you a man without a brain, right? I'm not so sure that I agree on that, with that.
I hear this from folks in the real estate world a lot, that the government of the city needs to be amenable to people coming there, to developers.
You go to California, and sometimes to get a building permit takes you 3 years. You know, in New York, it's impossible. So in my business, it is much easier to build here. If you look at the Miami of the 50s and 60s and you go to Miami Beach, you're going to see a very, very pedestrian architecture. And that's because it was mostly done for retirees or people that would come in the winter, but were not wealthy people. There were no restaurants, there was no culture. I think in cities like Chicago and New York, the cities that are already done, not that I'm saying they're not going to progress any, you know?
Brutal.
But,
I'm a New Yorker, so I'm going to be pushing you here.
That's fine, you know, that's fine. But you know what? You're not building MoMA again. You're not building the Metropolitan again. What worries me is affordability. The middle class and the working class, where do they live? The moment that we build a mid-income or affordable housing product, it gets consumed immediately. The demand is never-ending because people do want to be close to their jobs. They just can't afford to be close to their job.
Over the last 5 years, median home prices in New York jumped roughly 16%. That pales in comparison to Miami, where median home prices jumped nearly 96%. This isn't a unique story. Whether it's finance in Miami or tech in Austin, many cities are attracting some of the country's wealthiest transplants, which stresses infrastructure and drives up costs for locals.
When I went to school in urban planning, you know, we would use 25% of your income should be devoted to housing. Nowadays, you have a lot of people that are using 50% of their income.
Many people, most people often.
Many people, to housing. That leaves you really nothing, particularly if you're a family. I mean, you can't save. You can't go to dinner. You can't go to to movies. You know, I mean, it's a huge problem.
It's pretty clear that Wall Street is no longer on Wall Street, but it's less obvious whether it's moved to South Florida. It's more that Wall Street is everywhere. It operates through algorithms, investment firms, and policies that reach far beyond New York. Sometimes in villas in Italy, occasionally in a hotel in Palm Beach. Wall Street isn't a place anymore. It's a system, and it's growing.
Also, do you notice it cleared up for us?
You know, I had to call somebody to make that happen.
Oh, yeah, you just called the stars?
I was only promised 2.5 hours, so...
Okay, so we have to get this done properly within the right time.
Otherwise, the clouds shall return.